Boston Scientific is a medical devices company that focuses on stents. Now we go back to the heart.
Exactly. So a stent is like a little metal pipe that they put into one of your decayed arteries, and they even have ones now that leak drugs over time. Drug eluting, they call it. Amazing things. They put them in and then they pull out with a little, and then they open up. This is to ventilate your heart and the associated arteries around it.
Market cap $34.2 billion, price to earnings ratio of 97, and no dividend yield on the table at this point. Share price graph will give us a sense of, and again, not a bad looking graph.
Yeah, trading at its all-time high.
Yeah, it has done well, but this is the one when I looked at the financials, I couldn't quite justify the share price. There have been some corporate activity transactions the last while, but still, this one didn't get me excited.
Not excited. So how are you going to excite JP? Can you give us a
Look,
glowing...
They were the ones that invented this thing called the Taxus stent, where in the old first days of doing these things, they used to just shove like a piece of copper piping into people. Then they designed one that actually has a little spiral helix, and then as you pull it, it opens up. And that was a lot easier to get into the right space. I guess the only issue really is, do you think they've got the depth of patents? I think so. I mean, they have also got technology which gets them into the defibrillator and pacemaker market. They got some new technology.
Can we ask JP why he doesn't like this one? Just reiterate your standpoint on why this is not...
Why does it have a positive dividend yield? What's going on with that?
Sure. So because of corporate action lately, they're not paying a dividend. But it does seem like, if you look at the history of the ROEs, this company has been busy doing deals and reinvesting into the business, but not necessarily generating the cash that they needed to pass it on to shareholders. So it's a pure analysis of the financials over the last 5 to 10 years that I did. And that's why I said that's the piece of information where, because I don't have the medical background, I can't combine that with a qualitative assessment on saying, oh, but listen, you might not see it in the financials, but there's jam tomorrow. Even though they might not be jammed today.
So why would the qualitative assessment here weigh in their favor?
Well, there's just this one thing. I did mention it earlier, but let me try and make a better case for myself, because you were a bit skeptical earlier. That new drugs, like the one Amgen is working on called Repatha, it costs $14,000 a year, but if you take it, it actually re-stimulates your veins and arteries to the extent that the pulmonary hardening that happens, the cholesterol problem, almost goes away. So there's that drug. There's also Prolant, which is coming from Regeneron. If that happens and everybody's on those drugs, it could be argued that the likelihood of ending up needing a pacemaker or needing a stent or needing like all these expensive angioplasties.
The drugs are basically replacing the mechanics.
But it's a long shot. But my only observation about it is that I would rather be in the surgical devices and the knees and hips and joints rather than in these heart disease related, notwithstanding the fact that heart disease is still massive.
And you could see, as you're saying, the transformative drugs coming and basically reworking the industry. But again, we make the point that that is down the line. Yeah. So hot or not? Do you want to call this one?
I'm just going to go hot.
You're going to go hot. You're going to go hot.
I think they've got momentum. I think they're working it. So
hot or not?
I prefer companies where there's already a track record of value creation that I would rather think could continue versus a company that doesn't have that track record and all of a sudden it would start. And this company doesn't have a long-term track record of high ROEs, high cash generation, and wide margins as these other companies we spoke about previously. So based on that, I would say not hot.